days when the Kursk front was the rear area are now behind us. The northern border has now turned into a waiting room patrolled by drones. Even the sound of engines is recorded in this room. Trucks are under surveillance even when they change gears. And Ukraine has once again managed to turn this silent surveillance system into a deadly advantage. A Russian artillery convoy was detected during a river crossing. A truck carrying a Msta B howitzer became a target as it crossed a collapsed bridge. Within seconds, the convoy was obliterated. Is this incident the loss of a single vehicle or a lasting pressure signal that has lowered the intensity of fire in the northeast sector? Location: Seim River line. A Russian artillery convoy was detected using the Shark reconnaissance UAV along this line. The operation was tracked by the Magura Group, part of the 47th Mechanized Brigade's reconnaissance units. The firing was completed in coordination with a partner unit. However, there are striking details behind this story. Since the bridges had been destroyed earlier, the Russian side was forced to attempt passage in this sector, either through narrow gaps or using pontoons. Russian command took the risk of using the bridge debris as a makeshift crossing to move an artillery piece to the front line, and did so during daytime conditions. This decision once again demonstrated how a rushed crossing in a threatening environment can turn into a target board. This is because Ukraine's drone-based reconnaissance and strike chain is now capable of immediately identifying such narrow points. The fact that the truck, trailer and howitzer were silenced with a single shot points to both convoy discipline and weaknesses in electronic cover. This is because a wet crossing is always the most vulnerable moment for an army. The river line is a natural defense line drawn across the terrain, and once the decision to cross is made, the aggressor's rhythm becomes dependent on the speed of engineering. As speed increases, so does risk, and as risk grows, reconnaissance opens a window for the enemy. The Seim River is widening this window. This is because some of the permanent bridges on the line are now gone, and the remaining gaps stand out like beacons for sensors. This scenario increases the likelihood of daytime crossing attempts. Being spotted by drones is only a matter of time. Delays in the crossing disrupt the artillery build-up behind the lines and the flow of ammunition and fire support to the front lines. Disrupted fire support directly affects the infantry's ability to take up positions and the armored vehicle's ability to approach safely. The result is not so much the destruction of a howitzer as the reduction of the entire line's firepower. When this firepower drops, the initiative either slows down or completely shifts to the other side. The video from the field demonstrates how this theoretical vulnerability is punished in practice, with a brief window of opportunity. The question of why the Russian side took such a risk is inevitable. The answer lies in the time constraint. The howitzer and towing vehicle were being moved quickly to fill a critical gap and provide sufficient firepower to the front line. The inadequacy of electronic cover and the failure to deploy smoke screens, or their deployment being delayed, left the target exposed. Without close air defense and counter-UAV systems, such a crossing now amounts to an invitation. Drone operators do not exert extra effort to track the truck. Its route and speed are already locked in the bridge opening. The limited secondary explosions following the initial impact also indicate either a small ammunition load or that the load was distributed. Nevertheless, the fact that a single strike munition silenced both the truck and the howitzer simultaneously is an operational lesson. The lesson is this simple: wet crossings are now possible in the drone age, but only with layered cover and discipline. When this discipline breaks down, the convoy is destroyed in a matter of seconds, fitting into a single video frame. The question of why the Seim line is so critical is answered more by maps than by the battlefield. The river in the Kursk direction shapes the axes of movement in the northeast sector between Russia and Ukraine. When bridges are out of commission, heavy platforms are either forced to take long detours or loaded onto pontoons. In the drone age, pontoons are moving targets that can be tracked by reconnaissance and leave electronic signatures. That is why some units are trying to use damaged bridge structures as a kind of temporary ramp. The truck-bus combination seen in the images is a clear example of this experiment. The use of the Shark reconnaissance UAV by the Ukrainian side illustrates how much the kill chain has been shortened. Reconnaissance platforms like the Shark locate the target, mark it, and transmit coordinates without delay. The strike team then works together to deliver a single-shot solution using either surveillance munitions or an FPV-class vehicle. This coordination requires a network of units that speak the same language, from call signs to briefing terminology. Once the network is established, the local commander can make the fire-on-time decision with greater confidence. Timely fire captures the target before it can change position. A target that cannot change position becomes ineffective, even if it has the best armor. The fact that the howitzer is towed means its mobility is already limited. The tow truck was the weakest link, and when it was hit, the entire system went offline. The real cost is the loss of firepower that this howitzer would have provided in its planned firing missions. When firepower decreases, the enemy's maneuvering windows open. When maneuvering windows open, minefields and infantry advances can deepen undetected. Deepening advances put more pressure on other river crossings. As pressure increases, the Russian side is forced to build more bridges, deploy more pontoons, and manage more traffic. The awareness reading of the video is as important as its technical reading. Ukrainian social media channels and local press know how to quickly spread such images to gain psychological superiority. The goal is not just to describe an event, but to show the other side the cost of crossing. A commander who sees the cost does not want to take the same risk on the same line the next night. This psychological threshold can sometimes result in not a single heavy vehicle crossing a bridge for an entire month. A month is a very long time for a sector, and during this time the opposing side can reorganize its lines and create new pressure points. Thus, the cost of a video to a bridgehead is greater than the cost of a howitzer. This is precisely why the results of a rare armored assault attempted around Kupyansk during the same period were striking. 2 tanks, 3 MTLB vehicles, and a group of approximately 40 people were dispersed within minutes by a coordinated Ukrainian defense. The Achilles Unmanned Systems Regiment, the 116th Mechanized Brigade, and the Karadar 15th Unit worked together to stop the entire armored formation. This Kupyansk operation provides a second example of the lessons learned from the wet crossing at the Seim line. The armored density could not establish meaningful depth against the disciplined coordination of the drone artillery infantry trio. Achilles operators used FPV to directly disable a tank and 2 MTLB vehicles, with the remaining elements pushed back under artillery and infantry pressure. This type of mechanized trial, seen in the sector after months, demonstrated how the new normal on the ground operates. The new normal suggests that armor is no longer measured by numbers, but by its vulnerability to being hit within a network. This vulnerability is as much a concern for a convoy making a daytime mistake during a transition as it is for an assault column taking risks in open terrain. A single shot in Seim produced the same result as a layered fire cycle in Kupyansk. The outcome went beyond vehicle losses, leading to a decline in local fire intensity and the erosion of intent. This scenario confirms that we have entered an era where every moment the Russian command takes risks based on old habits is swiftly punished. And the punishment is no longer delivered by expensive platforms, but by low-cost FPV architectures. What can the Russian side do to prevent such losses from recurring? This also needs to be discussed. The first step is to layer electronic warfare intensity in transition zones. The goal is to delay the optical contact of reconnaissance drones and disrupt data transmission. The second step is to challenge image processing algorithms with smoke and screening. The third step is to synchronize close air defense with the transit speed and create a mobile umbrella. The fourth step is to conduct the transit at night or under favorable weather conditions and limit the duration to minutes. The fifth step is to make it difficult to achieve single target, single shot takedowns using the divide and synchronize method. The sixth step is to increase the number of backup routes and avoid reusing the same point repeatedly. If these steps are taken, the risk decreases but does not disappear entirely. In the drone age, even the best defense only buys time. It never eliminates visibility. So how can Ukraine turn this success into a sustainable pressure tool? The answer is clear. 1. Sensor density must be maintained continuously along the same river line. 2. Waiting times in the reconnaissance strike chain must be shortened and autonomous decision support must be increased. 3. The strike munitions pool must be diversified and dependence on a single solution must be reduced. 4. The goal should be 4 silent failed crossings in a week, rather than 1 video per day. 5. The logistical outcome of each failed crossing attempt must be calculated on the map and reflected in personnel rotation. 6. Coastal approach routes other than bridges and pontoons must be systematically converted into mine and drone traps. 7. Each crossing attempt should be archived as a data package and fed into subsequent mission plans. 8. Risks of information leaks should be reduced at the local level through coordination with civilian sources. 9. Ammunition and antenna configurations should be quickly adapted according to the EW systems of the opposing side. On one side of the seam line, there is a table for hurrying to cross, and on the other side, there is a table for not hurrying to ambush. An ambush does not accept haste. For the waiting side, time is as valuable as the ammunition to fire. Over the past 2 years, Ukraine has adapted this discipline of waiting to the tempo of the drone age. Target selection, approach, and the firing sequence can now be read in seconds, not minutes. This speed disrupts the Russian side's plan logistics synchronization. When synchronization breaks down, convoys either wait or move forward in disarray. Disorganized movement sets the stage for the next video, and the same network also demonstrated what a single FPV flying toward a minefield could achieve. Ukraine's Asgard FPV unit, operating under the 412th Nemesis Regiment, detonated over 300 TM-62 anti-tank mines in a chain reaction using a single drone. The total explosive equivalent was approximately 2.5 tons, and the resulting shockwave created a mild earthquake effect. Storing mines at such high densities in a storage area makes it a high-value target for a low-cost FPV. Such an impact not only reduces mine stockpiles but also slows down the pace of establishing saturated minefields along the front lines. A slower mine deployment pace opens narrow windows for armored maneuver and reduces the likelihood of surprises along coastal approach routes in attack plans. Additionally, such explosions test depot security and secondary blast management doctrines. From Ukraine's perspective, the strategic impact of a few $100 FPV is now a familiar equation. This equation becomes more appealing as the difference between ammunition costs and the repair and resupply costs incurred by the opposing side grows. Just as visibility is critical at the bridge opening in Seim, it is equally critical for the TM-62s piled up in the depot. Visibility imposes a penalty, and stockpile-based defense plans are becoming increasingly costly. When the cost accounting of this event spreads to the field, the picture becomes even clearer. The cost of an Msta B and the price of a truck-trailer combination are not large items in military accounting. The big item is the window of opportunity that the reduction in the firepower provided by this howitzer gives to the opposing side. When the window of opportunity opens, the intention of nearby units to advance increases. As the intention to advance increases, the consumption of defensive ammunition rises. When consumption rises, resupply risks increase, and the need for a second river crossing grows. A second crossing means a new video. If this vicious cycle is not broken, a sector can repeat the same mistake twice in a week. The days when the Kursk front was thought to be in the rear are over. Now the northern border is also a waiting room for sensors. In this waiting room, drones even note the moments when trucks change gears. Every pause on the road is recorded as a thermal trace and a drop in speed. The longer the recording, the higher the likelihood of being hit. Therefore, crossings must be either very fast or very secret. However, in an ideal world, both should happen simultaneously. The deactivation of the bridges over the Seim River has left the Russian side trapped in this dilemma. When pontoons are chosen, speed decreases and secrecy is lost. Leaning on the bridge debris increases speed, but stealth is lost again. All that remains is a layered cover and flawless discipline. Without these two elements, the video leads to the same outcome. The next step for Ukraine is to maintain pressure on this line with discipline. Discipline does not mean waiting in the same place at the same time, but making decisions according to the same standards. Standard means the same verification for every discovery, the same record for every hit, and the same feedback for every record. The faster the feedback, the higher the accuracy. As accuracy increases, the combat effectiveness of each unit of ammunition grows. Ammunition with increased effectiveness reduces the logistical burden. As the logistical burden decreases, pressure can be sustained. Sustainable pressure is the worst-case scenario for the opposing side. As this scenario becomes permanent, wet transitions become the last resort. The strategy of the side forced into the last resort narrows. A few realistic statements should also be made regarding the reporting of such events. Video footage from the field should feed planning, not propaganda. Any video that does not feed planning produces only a momentary burst of excitement and then fades away. Feeding the plan means expanding the target set and increasing the likelihood of repetition. For this, the measured use of open-source data is essential. It is possible to deter the enemy without giving away too many tactical details. Today's post maintains this balance. The location, route, and language used are sufficiently general. However, if the balance is lost in repetition, the enemy's adaptation will accelerate. When adaptation accelerates, today's method loses its value tomorrow. Therefore, the balance between success plus secrecy must be maintained not only on the ground, but also in the media. In summary, crossing the river is no longer a tactic, but a test. The questions of the test are fixed: speed, secrecy, cover, discipline. If there is a gap in the answers, the drone finds it. When it finds it, seconds are enough. Seconds turn every opening that looks like a bridge into a target. On the target, a truck and an obus stand side by side. When they stand side by side, a single round is enough. It's enough and the story ends. This time, it ended in Seim. Tomorrow, on the same route, in every place where the sensors are watching, it could happen again. What are your thoughts on this matter? Your opinions are very important to us. Please share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching.